Let's talk about something pretty radical. A new law in the UK that is literally putting a price tag on nature itself. We're talking about a brand new market where things like meadows, butterflies, and even ponds now have an official financial value.
Just imagine this for a moment. What if, before a company could build a new supermarket or a block of flats, they were legally required to not just avoid harming nature, but actually improve it? What if they had to leave the local environment in a measurably better state than they found it?
Well, you don't have to imagine it because it's not a hypothetical anymore. Since early 2024, a new law in England does exactly that. And this is a huge shift in how we think about development and conservation. And it's created a brand new, and as you'll see, potentially very valuable marketplace.
So, how on earth does a market for nature actually work? Let's get into the mechanics of it. Okay, it all revolves around this one core idea: Biodiversity Net Gain, or BNG for short. The rules sound simple enough. Any new development has to result in at least a 10% increase in the biodiversity of the land. It's no longer okay to just do no harm. Now, you have to actively do some good. So, how does a developer hit that 10% target? Well, their first option is to do it right there on site. Plant a little woodland, create a pond. But let's be real, if you're building on a tight plot in the middle of a city, it's often impossible. And this gives them a second option. They can buy that biodiversity from somewhere else. And just like that, poof, a market for biodiversity units is born. And listen, we're not talking about some tiny niche market here. Projections are estimating that this thing could be worth up to £274 million every single year. This has kicked off a bit of a gold rush, but as we're about to see, it's also created a whole lot of chaos. Because here's the thing. While the idea is revolutionary, the actual rollout has been a real mess. The problems are pretty clear. The market is slow, it's all over the place, and it's running on paper records that are, frankly, hard to trust. And this has thrown the doors wide open for greenwashing, for outright fraud, and for what some sources are calling cowboy operators selling nature credits that are completely unverified.
And these aren't just theoretical problems. They're having a huge real-world impact. Get this, a survey from the Home Builders Federation found that a staggering 94% of developers have had projects delayed, all because this new system is so hard to navigate.
So, this creates a massive headache. If a developer can't find a legitimate, verified unit to buy on the open market, they get backed into a corner. They're forced to turn to the government's last resort option, which is intentionally designed to be a painful experience. And the price difference is just wild. On the private market, a biodiversity unit for a new pond might go for around £80,000. But if you have to buy the government's last resort's credit for a rare habitat, that can be up to £650,000. And it gets worse. Often that price is then doubled by something called a spatial risk multiplier, which is basically a penalty for restoring nature far away from where you're building. It's a huge financial threat, and it's all designed to force developers into a private market that right now just doesn't have any trust. So you have a market that's fundamentally broken by a lack of trust. How do you fix it? Well, one really interesting answer is coming from the world of tech. The idea is to use blockchain technology. Now, don't let the words scare you. Think of it as a universal public accounting book for nature. Every single biodiversity unit, every patch of woodland, every little bit of grassland, gets its own unique digital ID, and it's recorded on a ledger that absolutely cannot be changed or faked. The process itself is called tokenization. You take a real-world, verified habitat, and you turn it into a unique digital token. And this token isn't just a random number. It's packed with all the crucial data: its exact GPS coordinates, the type of habitat, who verified it. Its entire life story is right there. And here's the really clever part. This is all managed by something called a smart contract. It's basically a little bit of code that acts as a digital referee, automatically enforcing the rules of the market. And its most important job? The second a developer uses a unit for their project, the smart contract permanently retires it. It's gone. It can never be sold again, never be counted twice. This is the key to shutting down fraud. So the whole life cycle becomes simple and totally secure. An expert verifies the nature on the ground. A unique digital token gets created for it. That token now lives on the blockchain where anyone can see its history. A developer buys it, and the smart contract makes sure it's a one-and-done deal.
It creates this unbreakable, completely auditable trail from start to finish. Now, this isn't just some sci-fi theory. There are companies out there building this right now. Let's take a look at one called NIVA, which is building a platform to do exactly this. Their mission statement really says it all. They're not just trying to build another marketplace. They are trying to solve that fundamental problem, the lack of trust, that's holding this entire system back. And their secret sauce is what they call a triple verification process. It's a 3-step system designed to make every single credit on their platform totally bulletproof. First things first, it all starts on the ground. You have an accredited ecologist who goes out and does a proper scientific survey using the official government rules to calculate the land's biodiversity value. That's the foundation. Second, that survey doesn't just get a rubber stamp. It gets sent to an independent third-party auditor. Their job is to double-check everything to make sure the science is solid and that there's no funny business. And third, there's a final layer of public accountability that comes from a DAO, a decentralized, autonomous organization. The easiest way to think of it is like a community watchdog group that's run by code instead of a board of directors, and it provides public oversight to keep the whole process honest and transparent. Okay, so let's zoom out. What does all this mean for the future? Because if this kind of technology actually works, the implications are pretty huge. This market is really just getting started. Some projections show it could be worth £3 billion in the UK alone by 2035. Building a trusted digital foundation isn't just about unlocking all that money. It's about making sure that money actually leads to real, verifiable improvements for nature. And that brings us right back to where we started. On one hand, you've got a system that's plagued by distrust. On the other, you have a technological solution that's promising total transparency. The ultimate goal here is to protect and restore the natural world. So the big question is, can a digital ledger really be the tool that finally aligns our economy with our ecology? That is the multi-billion-pound question.